Good evening and welcome to the Performance Link GT3 Cup Season 1, Round 10 here at the Red Bull Ring. So after what seems like an extended break while everybody had plenty of mince pies, plenty of alcohol during the festive period, we come back to the last 4 rounds of Season 1. So it's getting extremely close in quite a few of the championships, still very much up to grab. But my name's Andy Thompson. I'm joined as always by my co-host Dave at Whitehouse. Dave, it's going to be an interesting one tonight. Red Bull, everybody loves the Red Bull track, but it's a really easy track to get the incidence quite high. So I'm expecting to see maybe a few drivers coming through that pit lane for the drive-through penalty.
Yeah, certainly so. It's real, I'm going to say pain in the butt in terms of track limits, especially with final 2 corners. So the drivers will be really watching out for that. I know it's been mentioned in the drivers briefing. Happy New Year to everybody coming to the broadcast. It is actually the other side. It is now 2023, and this is, as Andy says, our first race. Austria, what a track. I mean, it never fails to disappoint, this circuit. For a circuit with only 10 corners, sorry, we confirmed this earlier, 10 corners, and a circuit where, you know, the Österreich ring, famous for how long it was, how fast it was and everything. And then this was the A1 ring for a short amount of time before Red Bull took it over. And it just always produces drama, excitement, a surprise result or two. And we've already seen in qualifying that the AMs and the rookies even are getting in amongst the pro-AMs and the pros at times. So it's everyone's about a muchness on pace, which will be interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is. But let's have a look at the standings so everyone's aware where we're currently at. Got 4 rounds. Should only be 3. Obviously, we missed Fuji for the events outside of our control, so that one's back in the calendar. So currently standing at the top of the spots in the pros is Scott Mokes on 153 points. Followed closely, 5 points behind by Thomas Cope. Very much been on a resurgence, but he only qualified 6 overall, 4th in class today, so this may be his bogey round. Aaron Powell, the same, in third there on 147, only 1 point behind Thomas Cope. So those 3 at the moment sort of pulling a slight gap over Arias Mantis in 4th on 134. Kim Andre Borkland in 5th. Nikolai Thrain in 6th after a thrilling race at Daytona last, just getting pipped on the line by Thomas Cope. Jacob Behrens in 7th. Matty Chambers in 8th. Elliot Hellier in 9th. And Dean Power rounds out the top 10.
In the Pro-Am standings, Michael Hooper continues to lead the way, especially after his win in the Spa endurance race. Patrick Thompson up in 2nd place, and James Logston, after getting his first win last time out, up into 3rd place overall. Casper Tunstad, who is unfortunately not with us here tonight, is sitting in 4th place ahead of Russ Fowler, Alex Corrett, Tom Bingham, Tom Stevens, Bob Humphries, and Kev Copeland rounds out that top 10.
Looking over to the amateurs, then we have currently Sander Ireland heading out the field on 176, 16 points ahead of Steve Pearce in 2nd place and Gordon Haig on 146. So the top 3 just got a little bit of a gap between each of them. David Gill on 123, Jimmy Vark on 112, Joe Sal in 6th, Simeon Mordeklev in 7th, Darren Doherty in 8th, Mad Sear in 9th, and Hendrik Harrison in 10th.
And we will now go across to our sort of smaller category of rookies, where Paul Joseph Kliss continues to lead the way ahead of ahead of Matthew Gerard, the only 2 drivers who qualified here tonight. We'll see whether anybody else joins the grid. Then it's Lewis McLevely in 3rd, Lydia Rose in 4th, and Victor Lind, who does have a pit lane start to serve if he does turn up tonight, in 5th.
Yeah, definitely has. Super close in the championship. 4 rounds still all up for grabs. And over to the team championship, Sim Racing Norway on 415, closely followed by Team Bear Pope on 411, with our very own Performance Link Esports there in 3rd on 364. Then a bit of a gap down to Reckless Abandoned, Evo SR, Olympus Esports, Evo SR Black, Nordic Racing, IGO Coat Indie Racing, and GT Acrimane. So that rounds out your top 10 in the team championship. But I suppose the closest one at the moment, Dave, is that pro. Super close. You know, Thomas Cope has been on a charge, won out at Daytona, and I think he won the previous round as well. So trying to make the hat trick of wins, but really didn't show anything in the practice and in qualifying of this speed. So like you said, this track is very much chalk and cheese, and I think the incidents are very much going to be coming up to the limits.
Yeah, it's very true. As we're now going to have a look at this circuit on board. This is with Aaron Powell, who's going up to a turn 1. You can brake a little bit later because it's uphill, down a few gears to clip the apex, use the sausage curb on the outside to keep it going, and then it's a long run up through the disputed turn 2 here, which has been turn 2 since the MotoGP arrived in Austria, and heavy braking down into turn 3. It's really a good place to get a solid exit out of the corner, as Aaron does there, and then it's up over the rise, back downhill, back uphill again, and then down towards the really difficult turn number 4 to try and get right. You can so easily miss your braking point. There is a chance around the outside if you get the best of runs. Run out to the gravel, then keep it going right, move across the circuit as quickly as you can, and take a lot of curb on the entrance for 5. It's 3rd or 4th gear depending on your gear ratios. Run over the curb, then we're back into the left-hander at 6, and then the very quick flat out 7. Don't want to run too wide, track limits will catch you there, and then it's the final 2 corners, which will just be about not running wide. Take as wide an entry as possible. Do not run wide on the exit here, because you will start picking up X's like Aaron did there. Clip the curb and then just keep it pinned for the line, and it was just about there is the timing line, and that is a lap already very quick of the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, only a short lap. Well, round 128, I'm expecting to be the fastest lap for the top pros. But saying that, I'm expecting some of the AMs and the pro-AMs to be getting into them figures as well. As you were saying, Sander Ireland, Steve Pearce at the moment in the amateur class are pretty much topping the charts at the moment in this free practice before the race. Sander Ireland with a 128.7, Steve Pearce with a 128.9, so super close to the AM drivers. And I suppose this is a very much track that doesn't really base it on the iRacing, because a lot of the drivers just go round and round this track. It's just such a nice track to go on. It's good when you haven't got an incident limit, and we keep talking about this, but it's just so easy to pick up them pesky little incidents. Certainly going around turn number 1, you mentioned there the outside, them sausage can. You don't want to be taking too much of them sausage can, because that can throw the car up. Coming down into 4th, turn number 4 down to Ranch, the downhill, which is quite a tricky corner again. You know, prime place for cars to try to make that passing opportunity. But the powerhouse turn number 6, absolutely treacherous corner. We don't want to be seeing cars go side by side because the outside car could get pushed out, and as soon as your wheels sort of almost touch that kitty litter on the outside, you'll be spinning. But expect to see some of the cars coming around this 1 hour race doing them a drive through. But what we'll do is we'll have a look at the grid as it stands for this race. So starting off with the pros, in pole position, we've got Scott Mokes, Nikolai Frayne in second, Jacob Behrens in third in the Ford. In fourth, we've got Thomas Cope, Irish Mantis in fifth, Kim Andre Borkland in sixth, and Aaron Powell in seventh.
In the Pro-Ams, it's Alex Scaret who takes yet another pole position in his run of form recently. James Logston out-qualifying Michael Hooper, his teammate, for second on the grid. Hooper in third, Russ Fowler fourth, Patrick Thompson down in fifth. He would have wanted a little bit of a better session. Tom Bingham sixth, Christoph Otterholt seventh, Christopher Birchens in eighth, Kev Copeland ninth, and Bob Humphrey rounds out the Pro-Ams. In the AMS, we have Steve Pearce on the pole position for Simeon Molderclef. Orvid Brevik in third. Matt Zerz and Sander Island are the next up, ahead of Matt Strand and Eric Rusev. Jimmy Vark, Gordon Haug, Sam Curran, Thomas Ashford, Daniel Slater, Eric Steingun, Hendrik Hausen, and John Tresidder, with Joe Soul rounding out those Pro-Am drivers. Matthew Gerard and Paul Joseph Kliss, the only two rookies on the grid.
Yeah, very small rookie field here, but the main two protagonists in play in that field. But looking at going to the green flag, so we get the pros underway here. And like you said, Scott Mokes is in the prime seat at the moment in first place, and first place in the championship. So a good opportunity with Thomas not really having the pace here. So all under Scott to get this race underway. So wonder when he's going to go. So he's just backing up the field here before he goes, and I think he has gone now. Got a really good jump there over Nikolai. Nikolai just pops in behind there. Thomas Cope just staying out wide on the outside of the track for turn one. You can see there Jacob Behrens just losing out, it looks like. All very close between the pros there coming around turn number one, but all make it through nice and safely. Looking further back at the Pro-Ams, Alexander Squaret still manages to keep that pole position. James Loxton second, and Michael Hooper in third. The only real movement there is Christopher Otterholt from 14th up to 15th as we look further back with the amateur field, and Steve Pearce gets a really good start off there. Already got around about half a second off Molderclev, and we have the two main protagonists in the rookies with Matthew Gerard and Paul Joseph Kliss. But Matthew did seem extremely fast compared to Paul, so has got a good opportunity here to claw back some of them 10 points difference between himself and Paul Joseph Kliss before this round. But looking further back up now, Nikolai Frayne has managed to get out in front of Scott Mokes here on this opening lap. Thomas Coper's managed to get up to third, jumping Jacob Behrens in the in fourth, Arias Germantis, Aaron Powell in sixth place at the moment, Kim Andre Portland in seventh, and that rounds out your pro for this first lap. But still an extremely long way to go, only 1 minute and 20 seconds into an hour-long race. So relatively nice, clean start there, Dave.
Yeah, a few of them extending track limits near the end of the lap, but I've noticed a very good qualifying and a very good start there for Jakob Behrens in the Ford GT. We keep saying it. He does have some pace in that car, just unlucky at times, things not going his way. Is this a place where the Ford is finally going to flourish? As we see Sander Island alongside Gordon Haug, teammates obviously working together. Sander really in the championship fight. Gordon not too far back, but Sander's more in it than Gordon, I believe. And that is Matt Zerge having a battle with Matt Strand at the moment. And Matt's really quick in practice again, so these drivers are going to start catching up to the packs ahead. As you can already see, Alex Scaret is only 3.6 off the back of the pro field, and that was a 5-second gap when they started the race. So it's something that the pros and pro-ams will have to think about when they have the pit stop a little bit later on, because they won't want to come. Oh, and round goes Matt Strand in the Audi out of turn number 3 and just loses the back end, and that has set him back. We'll just see it here. He just gets on the power a little bit too early in that black Audi, and just not a lot. I think he got a little bit spooked by Mads going to the inside. Oh, caught the sausage curb, and round he goes.
Just such an easy mistake to do, getting a lit on the power too quickly, coming out of that turn number 3 there, the AMS AG corner. Very tricky hairpin, certainly at the start of the race. But yeah, you mentioned about obviously the AMs just creeping up onto the back of the Pro-Ams, and same with the Pro-Ams creeping up onto the back of the Pros. We did see a lot of the AMs and Pro-Ams really mixing it and often getting a lot faster than the Pro drivers in front. So we may see a little bit of battle between the classes. But currently watching Mads Sire, currently 4th in clap with himself and Sander Highland as they just do another lap here, 3.5 minutes into this. And you did mention that, obviously, that pit stop. We haven't mentioned it in the opening broadcast, but a very tricky pit stop, a really fast entry into that pit lane. So you really got to make sure that you actually get below the speed limit before you hit them yellow cones, or otherwise you will have that 40 seconds. So I wonder if any of the drivers will come a cropper with that one. But it's currently back at the front. Steve Pearce already making light work of Kev Copeland. Ahead 5 seconds, like you said, the gap was, and that just shows how fast Steve Pearce is at the moment. Simeon Modoklev going with him, and Odvid Bredovic, you can just see in the background there. But then a little bit of a slight gap back down to Mads Sire, 2.3 seconds. So already a gap, the top 3 in that AM field, slightly pulling away from the rest of that field.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a. There's Alex Skrett catching up with Kim Andre Borkland. Maybe the Norwegian team cars just struggling a little bit early on. As we say, we normally see him right up with Steve Pearce, only Simeon up in that league pack at the moment, Sander Island a little bit further back. So something we're really going to have to do. But we're looking at the Pro-Am field. Here's Alex Skrett, who's been transformed since he went to the Audi. I think he started the season in the Mercedes, and he's got the 2 Team Bear Pope cars behind him of James Logston and Michael Hooper. James Logston just pushing for that championship challenge here late in the season to his teammate. Patrick Thompson not far behind in the white BMW, and then you have Russ Fowler in the Mercedes. I'm just looking at the YouTube chat, and we have some support in there for Patrick Thompson, and also a comment from Finding Pace. Nice to see plenty of Porsches out there, actually, an overall mix of cars, and that's the one thing we've had in this championship all the way along. Maybe no McLarens. I think we may have seen one once.
We have got some, but it hasn't been back, has
it? Yeah, it's kind of like the Dodo. You know, it's been there, done that, got the T-shirt and gone home. But the rest of the series, even with the BOP change in the middle of the year, where we all allowed everybody to have a free change if they wanted to, a lot of drivers didn't, to be fair. And especially in the Pro category, Nikolai stayed with Mercedes, Tom stayed with the Porsche, you know, so it's been a bit of a mixed season for drivers, especially if they've wanted to change. But yeah, there's a great mix of cars in this series, and as you can see, this is the Pro field, all in shot at the moment. You have there is Tom Cope and Scott Mopes, Jakob Behrens, and there is Kim Andre, and as I said, there is the Pro-Am field just behind. So in terms of pit stops, it's not going to be a free pit stop coming out in no traffic. Yes, a very easy circuit to overtake on, but it's not going to be easy in terms of pace because it's so close. As we now look back at Tom Bingham, who's challenging Christoph Otterholt, who Tom's had he has a good dive up into turn 3, textbook move there. Can he keep it on the inside without bumping over the curb? Gets a little bit of the curb. Otterholt may get run out the corner, but Bingham takes the position. And Tom's been driving well the last few rounds. Just a couple of incidents near the end of races has put paid to him. I think in Suzuki had an incident at 130R, and in Daytona, I think he dropped back a bit later on as well with an incident. So Tom just trying to keep it clean, trying to get into the pack early on, because that's the thing. In here at Austria, stay in the train and you have a chance.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, that slipstream going to be all the more important, but currently lost it to his teammate in front, Russ Fowler, to the tune of 1.9 seconds. So we'll be slightly out that. Looking further back here, Matthew Gerard now just challenging Haraldson there, the AM driver. So those two with Paul Joseph Cliff just behind him have closed up that 5-second gap, and it looks like Haraldson, they're just giving a little bit of food for thought for Matthew Gerard. I say go around this corner. They really don't want to be going side by side. Luckily, Harrison's not really challenging. They're not the best corner to try to do an overtaking or a 2x2 wide, certainly at speed at the moment. But these two rookie drivers are really putting on a show. Even though there's only two in class, these are the main two protagonists. But Paul just managing to get ahead there of Hendrik Harrelson before that treacherous turn 9 and 10. So you don't want to be hung out to dry, and certainly wants to be able to keep on to the tailcoat of Matthew Gerard and hopefully capitalise on a slight mistake. But Matthew does seem to have the pace here out in the Red Bull Ring. But yeah, still early days, only 8 minutes in. You can see the timing tower there. The top 6 of the pros all still relatively close together. Jakob Bered's only 0.8, 0.9, teetering on a second to the top 3 of Scott Mokes. But there has been a change. Nikolai Freyne managing to keep that number 1 position. Thomas Cope has got past Scott Mokes for that 2nd place overall. So are we going to have as much of a photo finish as we did for Daytona? I probably think not. But certainly the top 3 or top 2 in the championship, Thomas Cope and Scott Mokes, very close together. Aaron Powell just needs to make up a little bit of ground, maybe just biding his time here. Still plenty of time to go, and that round of pit stops is where a lot of things can change. But good to see that Jacob Barnes, touch wood that I'm commentating, Kirsten, that he's having a half decent round here in the opening 10 minutes.
Yeah, hopefully we haven't cursed him as Tom Cope goes for the lead of the race. Up the inside of turn 2, goes early. Nikolai Freyne gets a lovely cutback, so they're side by side towards turn number 4. Scott Mokes trying to decide which slipstream to get along the circuit. He goes up behind Cope to keep the race in line, but Nikolai Freyne on the inside breaks deep. Has he braked too deep? Yes, he has. Thomas Cope will get the cutback. Will Scott Mokes get the run? No, Nikolai Freyne is still there alongside Thomas Cope as they go towards the next corner. This is turn number 6, I believe, and it is still side by side. Nobody going over track limits, and Nikolai Freyne gets the lead back. I was just about to say this is a completely different circuit to what Thomas Cope was practicing for earlier in the day when he raced for Olympus Esports at Belle Isle, which is a bumpy, tight, twisty road circuit. And now he's having to get used to a fast-flowing circuit here at Red Bull Ring. But he's certainly in the mood to make up for the disappointing result he had there, where he had good pace, but just got a bit of damage early on, and that really put pay to his hopes. But this is the top 6 all together. They've dropped Kim Andre Borkland quite a bit now, but he's still got a watching brief. But this is the top 6, and it's Mercedes, Porsche, Ford, Mercedes, Lamborghini. We haven't actually said much about the Lamborghini, but Aaron Powell, who took a win earlier in the season with that car, is doing a good job of hanging on there and just having a watching brief as Nikolai Freyne has to continue to be defensive against Thomas Cope, and that's allowed Scott Mokes to get up the inside of Thomas Cope as they head towards turn number 4.
Yeah, Scott Mokes getting on the grass a little bit there, just following Nikolai Freyne, managing to do the undercut on Thomas Cope here, coming down. So Thomas down to 3rd. But just going back to there where we were seeing them 2 wide going around turn 6, the powerhouse, you could just see Thomas Cope just backing off that throttle to try and not get too far out through this round of corners that we're watching here. So had to really come off the power to let Nick and I through, otherwise he would have been pushed out wide. And as soon as you hit that kitty litter on the on the left hand side there, it's pretty much game over. You will spin the car around. But they're having a really good bite, and we've got Jacob Behrens now challenging Thomas Cope for that 3rd place overall, nearly side by side. That Ford seems really racy here. Thomas Cope was extremely wide there, cutting back in, so there must have been another off track there. Oh, as we see Jacob Behrens taking all of the track plus a little bit of grass, but managing to stay safe. This top 6 at the moment in the pros are super racy. Looking further back at the pro-ams, we've got James Logston still in that pole position. Oh, in fact, James Logston has overtaken Alexander Scorrett for that pole position in the pro-am field. So those two at the moment got a 1.4 seconds over the battle behind between Patrick Thompson, Russ Fowler and Michael Hoopla, our current pro championship leader, by a healthy margin as well. So one thing Thompson just wants to watch out for is the cars behind him.
Yeah, so this is a move that James Logsdon put for the lead, and you see Michael Hooper was still third at this stage, so something happened to him later in the lap. I don't know if it's to do with this, but Logsdon goes to the inside at turn number 4. Scorette hangs it round the outside. No contact. Lewis Hamilton and Red Bulls take note, and James Logsdon takes the lead of the race, of the Pro-Am field, and then Michael Hooper's still third there, so something happened to him towards the end of the lap because he dropped down to 5th, and these two pulled away as Thompson and Fowler went through. Fowler set the fastest lap of the race in the class last time by, and these two just trying to drag in Kim Andre Borkland so they can get a little bit of slipstream off that car in front. But right now, it is a 2-horse race with the 3 just trying to close that gap. They need to start to work together around the circuit to get that little bit closer, as Russ Fowler is having a look at the rear of his car. This is Michael Hooper, and we might see what happens here towards the end of the lap. This was as James took the lead. Patrick right up behind him. I wonder, because Patrick is second in the points with Michael leading, so I wonder if he's took a little bit of a nibble and it's just forced Michael off wide and in a competitive way, shall we say, and Russ has sneaked through because he's a bit far back. This is going to be interesting how this one turns out. They come down to the final 2 corners. Does Michael just drift out wide from the wash of the court? Drifts out a little bit wide, but nothing drastic, so it's a bit, runs a bit wide there. I'm not sure what's happened there. Must have been somewhere on the next lap.
Quite possibly, or could it be? Let's watch him go around turn 1, see if it's there. If not, it'd be one of them life little mysteries. But no, it looks like I don't know. It must be.
Maybe we'll find it for a podcast in the week.
Maybe we will find out. But you know, looking at it, it's the same sort of story in the amateur field. You've got Simeon Motorclev, who's managed to get past Steve Pearce. We saw Steve Pearce get an awesome start at the race, got a half a second up by the first turn, but Simeon Motorclev has managed to get that position, that time, and some back. So let's have a look at the pass. Again, it's down to turn number 3, just doing that undercut, just getting that better exit out the corner. And once you've got that inside line coming down into Ranch into turn number 4, it's pretty much game over for the car on the outside. And as you can see, there's sort of yielding the position, trying to get the cut back, but unfortunately gets cut off himself, and then obviously just put out of position and coming through, and Simeon managing to keep that inside line. So a great pass there again. So pretty much the same story, because third, but what we got here, we got another Arias. Let's have a look at what happened in the Pro Arias. Just a bit back off, is it? Spin round the turn number 3. Yes, it is. It's that curb, exactly carbon copy of the Audi we watched earlier.
And if you notice, just in front, I saw an Olympus Esports car being quite slow out of that corner. I wonder if Thomas Cope has made a mistake. Yes, Aaron Powell has made his way through it into 3rd place. So, and Nikolai Frane is down to 5th. The leader is the Ford GT of Jakob Behrens. So he's made his way through from 4th to 1st in all of that. Scott Mokes in 2nd, Aaron Powell 3rd. Thomas Cope heads to the pit lane, so he must have damage because it's only 16 minutes gone. There is an Audi moving out of the way, and here we go. This is Nikolai Frane and Scott Mokes going up towards turn 2. They go through turn 2, up into turn number 3. Scott Mokes tries to make a move. Dummies to the outside. Doesn't quite make it through. And they're 2 touch, and they run into Nikolai controlling the car. That's pretty well controlled by Nikolai, to be fair. But the contact with Thomas Cope will have damaged his steering. And then Jakob sees his chance down into turn number 4. Dummies it. Scott goes deep. And Jakob will take the lead in turn number 5. No, not quite. This is turn 5 here. And he has a look into turn 6. And the Ford GT leads for the first time in the Performance Link GT3 Championship.
It certainly does. You know, it's certainly racy. It is a very fast car. It loves these fast-flowing tracks, so I'm expecting big things from it here today, as well as like Le Mans, which is another fast track. So the Ford, which is very much not a popular car, Jakob is certainly driving it a lot. Definitely, currently, like you said, the very first time a Ford has been leading this race out. Currently 17 minutes in, Scott Moakes in second, Aaron Powell pretty much at the back of that pro field where we are now. It's all sort of been sort of lit up really from the incident for Scott Moakes and Nikolai Frayne. You can see Nikolai 3 seconds behind these front three at the moment. James Logston 3 seconds behind him there in 5th place. You've got Kim Andre Borkland in 11th, Arias Schimantis in 13th. Where did Thomas Cope come out? He's currently in 32nd, 28 places down, but has made that all-important pit stop. So something's happened to Kim Andre Borkland and Arias Schimantis. And for Arias, we just saw him spin. I'm not sure what happened to Kim, but he's down in 11th place overall as well. So
there we
go. There we go. Right around turn number 1, giving it a little bit too much beans, and pretty much the whole Pro-Am field, or the majority of the Pro-Am field, just taking it past him. But a very easy place to get that off. So a couple of the big names at the moment have got it all to do in the second half. Luckily for Thomas, didn't cause too much damage to that car that he wasn't able to stick with the top 3, and all he's lost really is pit stop. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do now, but he is stuck behind a lot of the amateurs and rookie drivers, so hopefully hoping that he doesn't really get held up by the rest of the crew. But looking currently at James Logston, who's in a titanic battle at the moment with Alexander Scoret just behind him in 6th place overall in this race. Then a bit of a gap to Russ Fowler, who's having a bit of a battle with Patrick Thompson there. Patrick Thompson's had a bit of loss of form really challenging Michael Hooper for the championship, but in the last couple of rounds has just fallen away slightly. It might be where he changed over to that BMW on the big patch change, but certainly coming back into the grasps of 3rd, 4th and 5th overall in the championship. Michael Hooper, I think, at the moment with a 16-point advantage. Doesn't really necessarily... as we see Patrick just dicing with a bit of death there with that sausage curve out of turn number 1, but managing. And I suppose being in that BMW is quite luckily, it does take the bumps quite well. But right now, still on the back of Russ Fowler in that Mercedes.
Yeah, we have big news in the in the Anfield. Simeon Moldeclef is falling down the table very quickly. He's fallen down to 22nd. He was leading the class, so he's done a 1 minute 40, so lost 10 seconds somewhere. Here we are in the final corners with Steve Pearce behind, runs wide, and I think it may be he just loses the back end, because he's never, to be honest, he's probably never regained the back end. Stops the car, reverses it. Good way of trying to rejoin the circuit. It was brought up in the briefing to make sure you rejoin safely. Simeon was listening, and he rejoins back with his teammates, but that has blown his chances of a maiden victory in the series, and it allows Steve Pearce to continue to drive off into the distance, but he now has Ovid Bredvik right behind him, because actually there's a compression of the pack behind that spin. So yeah, Steve Pearce really under pressure still, even though that gap has opened up. But back up front, Jakob Behrens still leads. We've got RPC Thomas Wangan in the chat, I believe, saying go Jakob Behrens in the Ford. So and that was said just before Jakob took the lead. So a little bit of support there coming in and helping Jakob up into the lead. But yeah, you were meant Nikolai Frayne has hit the pit lane now, so he may make the end. Thomas Cope will not make the end on this fuel tank, so I'm guessing he will have to pit again a little bit later on for a splash of fuel, unless he's very good at fuel saving. And what's even more amazing is during the race, I'm seeing in the driver chat Thomas Ashberg saying that Sander Island and Steve Pearce are too quick for him while he's been driving. So maybe if he concentrates on driving rather than typing, he might go a little bit quicker. But Thomas is actually ahead of Sander Island at this moment in time in the field. And it's quite good to see. I think it's Mad Surge up in 3rd place in the class. bit by himself at this moment in time. So he will be looking to try and close in on Steve Pearce, but this is a good day for Steve Pearce right now. He's sitting first. His nearest championship rival, probably Gordon Haug, down in 18th, so about 5 places back in the class. And then you have Sander Island a bit further back and Simeon Mordeclef. So it's a good day for Steve Pearce. David Gill not here either, his teammate. So he's really holding out the fort for the reckless abandoned crew. But yeah, it's a good drive by Steve so far with 23 minutes gone on the clock.
Yeah, it definitely is. And one thing I will call out here is I think Thomas Cope is our first casualty of that pit lane speeding. His pit stop was 1 minute in length. He does have a fast repair, and obviously a pit stop would not be 1 minute long. So I believe that he might have speeded in the pits there and had a 40-second pit lane. So we'll have to have a look to see if we can see if he's our first casualty of what we were saying earlier on with that pit entry and trying to get it slowed down. Very tricky, but such a great sight to see that Ford. You never really see it in any of the leagues on YouTube, that the Ford being used. But Jakob Behrens at the moment, we've seen him have the pace in it, but unfortunately got caught with a few incidents that are put paid to his race. But really racy at the moment. Scott Mokes behind him in second place, and Aaron Powell literally just kept his nose clean, was 6th in that pro category, then had a couple of incidents at the front between Nikolai Frayne and Scott Mokes that really shook it up, and Aaron just sauntered on through to 3rd overall. So he's obviously on the trail for the win in that pro category. This may put a little big dent in Thomas Cope's bid after such a late surge in the last couple of rounds, but still be in with a shout. But Aaron Powell at the moment in the driving seat in that 3rd place spot can just follow Scott Mokes at the moment, and I think just Jakob at the front just really wants to get that win. And personally, I'd love for him to win in that Ford, because it's not often you say a Ford wins a GT3 league race, that's for sure.
It's not often you say a Ford wins a GT3 race, full stop. Never mind in esports. It's also in real life. A Ford, I think the only Ford I've really seen that might win something is a Mustang in GT3. So the Ford GT hasn't done the best in terms of GT racing overall. So it's great to see it up there. Further back, I have noticed Michael Hooper dropping off the back of the front 4 in terms of the Pro-Am class. So that's something to just watch out for. The championship leader not having the best of times, as Jakob is flashing his lights at the back marker to move them out the way, just trying to let them know he's there rather than intimidate them. But Michael Hooper just taking that sort of watching brief, shall we say, on the 2 in front of Russ Fowler and Patrick Thompson. I was going to say, actually, in the top 3 of the pros, we have 1 driver who hasn't won a race yet. Aaron Powell and Scott Mokes have both taken victories. In the top 3 of the Pro-Am, we have got 3 drivers, one of them not taken a victory in the races so far. In the Am category, we've got 2 in the top 3 who have not taken wins so far. So there's drivers throughout the field looking for a first win and being in a strong position to do so, as well, as we just saw Nikolai Frayne dispatching of that train of 5 Am cars after he has pitted to repair the car and hopefully make it to a finish. I think he pitted 22:33 roughly on the clock, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can make the end of the race. He's going to have to do a bit of fuel saving, which will reduce his pace around here, no doubt, because it's all about late braking and exits out the corners, but he might just make it.
Definitely will be at the front of the chain there, Nikolai Frayne. His pit stop was a 23.02, so slightly slower than Christian Bjertnæs, our Pro-Am driver, currently in around about, I think, 30th position, something like that. Christopher Bjertnæs, as we look at a replay of Hendrik Harrison coming down to here, looks like turn number 4. Does he just go in? No, it's not. It's at 9 and 10, so just loses it. That tyre's going away. It's pretty much the same carbon copy as we saw from the leader of the Pro-Am earlier on. That's Porsche maybe losing a little bit of grip on these fast corners here, but Hendrik Harrison just coming a cropper there around turn number 9 in that Porsche. But back at, oh, Jacob Behrens is currently in P3, so a slight mistake. Looks like Scott Mokes has taken over the lead. Aaron Powell in second place. Jacob Behrens still in first. So maybe a slight mistake there coming into turn number 3 that gave the opportunity. Let's have a look at what happened here. So coming around the last corner. Do you know what I think it was? I think he was put offline here, and it's going to be coming up to turn number 1. It's going to get super close to him because it looks like Jacob wasn't able
Yeah,
to
it looks like he had a slowdown there.
Slow down look.
Yeah, he had to go a little bit tighter, but I don't think you can blame it on the back marker. I think Jakob just made a mistake on that final corner, but he's still in the fight for the win, and that's what he really wants to do. James Logston has took the chance to try and undercut Alex Scuret at the front, so James Logston been into the pits and only fallen to 15th. That's how much, even on this small track and quite simple track, the gaps have opened up. Patrick Thompson heads for pit lane as well now, so that has put Michael Hooper, because Russ Fowler, I think, has headed for pit lane as well.
Yep.
So the pits are started to happen, and that moves Tom Bingham up into the podium positions in Pro-Am. But he does owe us a pit stop, so it's a bit of a, no disrespect, Tom, bit of a full storm for you in terms of the podium, but still going well. Back in AM category, Steve Pearce still leads away from Orvid Brevik and Mads Church. They're just ahead of this of the charge and James Logston, who's trying to win the Pro-Am class for the second time in 3 races. And let's see where Fowler and Thompson come out. Well behind James Logston. They're going to have at least 5-6 cars between them, which is a huge surprise. And Patrick Thompson out well before Russ Fowler. Russ Fowler's still in the pits. Has Russ Fowler got a speeding penalty?
Is that number 2 of the day? We gotta keep a track of these, I think.
He's still going. And the daft thing is yes, it's a quick entry, and you've got to be careful because of a white line on the left-hand side to get a safe entry into the pit lane. So that's the other thing it could be, rather than the speeding penalty, it could be an unsafe entry to pit lane. But the exit of pit lane is so tight and narrow as well. You don't gain as much as you expect. As Scott Mokes and Aaron Powell are starting to pull away. Fastest lap of the race for Scott Mokes, beaten by Alex Scuret. That Audi is really motoring in the Pro-Am category. He knows he's got the lighter fuel now compared to James Logston, and he's really going to push on and hopefully put that Audi through the darkness of dusk that is coming into this Red Bull Ring circuit and take the lead of the class, he's hoping.
Definitely is Jacob Behrens. Bit of a shame he's starting to slip away. It did look like coming around them turn 9 and 10 at them, the tyres were sort of maybe going away from that Ford. It is starting to get into the evening now. We see the lights coming on the car, so it will be getting darker as the race goes on. Currently just past half race distance here. Alexander Scuret is leading out the Pro-Am field there. Michael Hooper around about 2 seconds behind. Yeah, you can just see him in the background coming around. So Alex has got a decent lead, and we've seen this before from Alex, having a really good event and then just a simple mistake causes him to cave, but hopefully he'll have it in. But looking further back in the rookie class, Matthew Gerard currently holding that first position, about 2.5 seconds ahead of his rival Paul Joseph Clist. Still trying to keep up with him, but obviously through the practice sessions, Matthew was considerably faster than Paul, so Paul will still be picking up some valuable points here. Only 2 points will be gained by Michael, so around about 8 points will be the difference, as long as Paul can stay within that 3 laps of him. We're at the moment, and we do know that Paul is a very clean driver, probably even go in. I think he's probably the most driver that's had like 0 incidents through the races, so probably trying again for that, just to mitigate that extra point that Matthew will get, so try to keep it to 9, but still doing a great job, these 2 rookies at the moment. Probably will be going up to the AM class in next season. Even if we do have a rookie, as you can see, it's was supported quite well at the start, which was really good, considering we're probably the only league to have 4 different classes. Unfortunately, a lot of them have fallen by the wayside, so really got to look at whether bring that back in without getting commitments. But I think there we got Matthew Gerard going into the pits there, so Paul Joseph Clist will take over as the #1 driver in that rookie field, even for the short time. So Paul could really try and push on here and try and do the overcut over Matthew. So we'll watch that and see what happens there. But currently at the front of the field, Scott Mokes still in P1, Aaron Powell in P2, only 0.3 of a second behind Jacob Behrens. Has closed that gap down slightly, only 1.1 second now behind him. You can see there, Jacob Behrens getting the fastest lap of the race of 128.26, 3/10 quicker than Scott Mokes and Aaron Powell in front of him, and that's why that gap has come down between them. It may be due to some of the back markers now that Scott Mokes and Aaron Powell are coming up against, and this could be a good opportunity to be able to maybe pit to get in there, as we watch Eric just going extremely wide, letting them pro drivers through, but doesn't want to go too wide or else he will be picking up another unneedy incident.
Yeah, a lot of drivers heading to pit lane this time. Alex Correct, Christopher Utterholt, Steve Pearce is into pits, Olvid Bredvik into pits, but a lot of drivers getting this fuel to go just that little bit longer, and that's the advantage of it being a shorter circuit. Just being, you know, the hills are alive with the sound of motorsport, but the fuel does drain as you're going up and down these hills. Gordon Haug currently leads the AM category. Michael Hooper now takes the lead of the Pro-Ams. But here is Gordon Haug with his teammate Sandra Ireland just behind. Simeon Moldeclef fallen off the back of them since his mistake earlier on from leading the race. And I have got to give a shout out to Sam Curran, who's in the field for the first time for a while, I believe. And he is doing a good job. He's just taking his pit stops, so has fallen a bit back downfield. But at the front, Jakob Behrens and Aaron Powell are in the pits. There is Sam Curran for Team Bear Pope Zero, doing a good job on his return to the AM category. But it is Scott Mokes and Michael Hooper who continue on getting that extra lap of fuel. And Scott's been a driver who's done this quite a lot this season. He's managed to get that extra lap out. Michael, that's why he was sitting back earlier on, just trying to stretch it that extra lap, not to have to stay in the pits as long, but then you've got to get the speed down. You've got to get that safe entry and make sure you don't cause yourself problems. Jakob Behrens is currently our sort of clubhouse leader in 4th overall. That shows you how much the pro drivers had a lead, as Olvid Brevik allows Scott Mokes through, and Scott will probably be pitting this time. We'll see in a minute as he comes round towards the final 2 corners, because this is where Scott will have to stay inside of the white line. If he pits this time, he takes the racing line, tries to keep it tight. Yes, he heads for pit lane. And
yeah,
let's
we've
see
got another one. We've got another one. Aaron Powell is looking like he's done a pit lane speed in here. Currently, another 1 minute club. It's himself, Thomas Cope, and Russ Fowler are the 3 drivers at the moment in the 1 minute club. So his race is ended here at the moment. Jacob Behrens now will be promoted to 2nd place after the round of pit stops here. How close is he? Miles back from Scott Mokes is in the pits. Where is Jacob Behrens? Coming down here into turn number 4. Don't think he's going to get the move done slightly. No, that's turn number 9 there. Sorry, I keep getting my corners around number 10. Yeah. Scott's managed to get out. So Scott will continue to get this lead. What is going to be the gap? So it's going to be a pretty sizable gap for Scott. Scott needs to get up to speed, where Jakob will be up to speed. You can see here, just out of the pits, just gaining speed, coming down here through turn number 2. The gap is around about 6 seconds. So Scott Mokes, like you said before, another sort of masterclass. Nikolai Thrain has been promoted to 3rd place after Aaron Powell and Thomas Cope.
Look at this.
Look at this.
This is the top 3 in the Pro-Ams. And Michael Hooper, who was 5th coming into this, is now battling for the lead as he's just come out of the pits. Probably about 3 or 4 laps longer on his stint. And he has taken the lead, a masterclass by the championship leader. And now he's ahead of Alex Scarrett and James Logston. The two drivers must be going, where on earth has he come from? And bad news for Patrick Thompson. While Michael takes the lead, Patrick is down in 14th overall behind Christopher Otterholt and Tom Bingham, who's out in front. I think Bingham has pitted. So he's come out in a solid 4th place in class. Christopher Otterholt is behind Russ Fowler. Wow, this has turned Pro-Am on its head, and this could be a massive jump in the championship for Michael Hooper to try and claim this title.
There is, and it looks like we have a 4th member of the club. Jimmy Vark, the 1 Minute Club, has joined the illustrious 3 to make it 4 drivers that look like they've had speeding penalties in there. But just looking at the pit stop times, Michael Hooper 18.18 seconds, Alexander Scarrett 22 seconds dead, so 4 seconds more than Michael there in the pit stop. James Logston 19, nearly 20 seconds, so that is where Michael has gained the time. 2 seconds on James Logston, 4 seconds on Alexander Scarrett, and that is how he's managed to get himself into this position of leading the Pro-Am category at the moment, as we're looking at Logston just diving down the inside of Scarrett into turn number 3, getting the move done. The Audi going over the bump there will lose a little bit of speed, but tucked up nicely. Who can get that inside line? Pretty sure that James will cover it off to not give Alex the inside line here as they come down into turn number 4. James managing to get that turn. So it's 1-2 for Team Bear Pope in the Pro-Am field.
Yeah, I think I know what's happened to Patrick Thompson. Looking at them pit stop times, he had a pit stop time of 1.9 seconds on his last pit stop. I wonder if he's pitted, got damage, and then come back in for his fast repair. That would make sense with the 1.9 seconds, unless there's a bit of a mistake on the timing.
He said he's pitted twice, hasn't he? So
yeah. So he's come in for the fast repair, the STK gaming layout exactly right, calling it for them. But James Logston has got past Alex Scarrett there, and he's now trying to charge down on his. Here we are, Patrick coming into the pits. That's all okay. Doesn't seem to have any damage there, but can't really see. Pits. Yeah, there's a little bit of damage on that front end. You just saw it pop out on the replay there. So I wonder if he's had a bit of an incident, just a bump, and you know, it depends whether it's making your straight line speed down. It could be damaging your engine. So Patrick gone for safer rather, unless it's maybe slightly damaged his steering and he's thought it's quicker to come in than the time lost. But that has allowed Michael Hooper to have a huge points gap back to Patrick Thompson, who's second in the points. And this is also going to allow James Logston to have a good shoot up the championship. Almost a late championship charge if James can get ahead of Michael here. So it's not even like Michael can go, well, I've got enough points in the championship. Here you go, James, have the win. He'll probably be more careful because of his teammate and helping his teammate out. But he's not going to just give it him, because James could turn into a championship contender the rate he's going.
He certainly could. And James has just had an exceptional charge at the moment in the last, say, 4 or 5 rounds. Has really come up. Didn't have the best of starts to the season there as we look further back. Sand Island in pole position. Looking back at Simeon Moloklev here. What happens coming down here into turn number 4? Does he get it slightly wrong? Oh no, the BMW in front. I think that's Madsea just bumping him into the corner there. And Simeon's not had the best of luck in this race after we saw him leading that Pro-Am field, getting it slightly wrong through turn number 9. Looks like he's managed to get away with that one though, with very little damage on that front end, so still able to go along in that Porsche. But looking further back at Thomas Asfag in the Ferrari, another car that we haven't really looked at today, trying to put Eric Rossif under a little bit of pressure in front of him. So a nice little battle between fellow nations there for P21 overall in class. But I mean, the top end of the field has just been obliterated with that round of pit stops. You know, we've got 4 drivers in the 1 minute club, so pretty much 2 pros and 2 pro-ams drivers in there that were up there at the front end of the field that are mid-pack now, so well out of the way for the win, which has really given the opportunity now for people like Jacob Behrens, who we haven't really seen him do much in the way in the championship of finishing, as we get one of the
That's
Team
Simeon.
Norway.
That's Simeon again.
Oh, turn number
Oh,
3.
if he didn't have any luck, he would have. If he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. This is Simeon going down to turn number 3. I bet you it's the same again. A little bit too much power as that Porsche gets out of the way. A little bit too much power up on the curb, and like everybody else, around he goes. Simeon probably driving with a bit of anger because he was leading the class. And I was just going to say that Sander Island has kept his nose clean and is now only second in class to Steve Pearce. So Steve Pearce was sitting there going, "Where's Sander Island? Where's my championship rival?" He's not far behind you now, actually, because in terms of not in terms of time, the time gap is about 10, 12 seconds. But in terms of the actual points gap, it's going to be 1. So, yeah, from a great day for Steve Pearce, it's turned into a good day so far. But look what's happened so far. Anything could happen near the end of this. It's even put Nikolai Frayne up in 3rd place overall. We're touch and go whether he can make the end on fuel, though. So he will be keeping to push, keeping to try and... Because Arias Mantis is there waiting to try and get that final podium position in the pro category. And 5th in pro, Kim-Andre Borkland, who we said was going backwards very quickly earlier on, is somehow managed to work his way through 9th overall, just ahead of Steve Pearce, who's just crept into the top 10. This is a battle between Christian Bertrand and Christopher Otterholt. No, sorry, Aaron Powell just ahead. And just ahead of them is Patrick Thompson on his little recovery drive, back up to 5th in class. So still not bad points here for the Dane, who really wants to put himself right in that championship challenge with what will be 3 rounds to go from this, with Interlagos, Fuji, and the great circuit of Le Mans to go.
Yeah, 2-hour endurance race to finish off the season. I mean, it's been a cracking season so far. We've seen nobody really dominating each one of the classes. We see Michael Hooper there, who's probably the best thing to dominate in that Pro-Am, but he's not had it all his own way, and it's a great battle behind him. Patrick Thompson at the start of the season, it was between them two that were scrapping out win after win for each round, but Patrick's sort of fallen by the wayside a little bit in the latter part of the season, and now he's coming into touches, like I said, of that 3rd and 4th place. 3rd overall, I think, was Casper Tunstall, who's not here tonight, but 4th was James Logston, and at the moment we can see him in 2nd place, just behind the man we're watching at the moment, Michael Hooper, on track. So I wonder if there will be maybe a little bit of team tactics if James can keep up and keep behind there as they pass the Porsche. I think that is a Kev Copeland. Oh, we see Michael getting that curb. We've seen a few cars getting it slightly wrong around there, but managing to keep it in that Porsche. Not renowned for taking bumps exceptionally well, but certainly keeping out front is Michael Hooper in this Pro-Am category, with the teammates following on. And I think what they're really trying to do is trying to drop Alexander Scaret, still keeping in there less than a second, so we'll be getting the slipstream effect off these 2 drivers in front. But these 2 Team Bear Pope drivers are doing all they can to get away and clear of Alexander Scaret in 3rd place, and it'd be a great result for Alex if he can stick there in 3rd place. And our very own Tom Bingham, we see there 7 seconds behind this battle that we're currently watching on screen between the 2 teammates in 4th place overall. But like you were saying in that pro field, Dave, it's sort of been after the round of pit stop sort of smashed up. You can see there Scott Mokes leading the way, 10.4 seconds ahead of Jakob Behrens in the Ford, who's now coming under a bit of pressure from Nikolai Thrain in third place. So this is probably the hot battle in the pro category at the moment. Whichever way you look at it, to get Jakob Behrens on that podium in that Ford is an achievement in itself, considering it's a car that nobody wants to drive in iRacing out on track. So it's going to be interesting to see if Jakob Behrens can keep that second place, or if that power of that Mercedes is just going to be a little bit too much for that Ford in the latter start of the race. It's only 12 minutes left to go of this hour-long race, but Jakob doing a great defensive job here, just trying to push Nikolai out and maintaining that second place overall. But all the time, that's just letting Scott Mokes get away for what looks like another victory and an extension to his championship. His two main rivals joining the 1 minute club here. As watch Nikolai Frankel very deep here into turn number 4. Making contact with Jakob, so side by side coming through 5 down into 6 through the power horse. Is yeah, Nikolai doing the right thing, just yielding that position, realised he went a little bit too hot into turn number 4 and just giving the position back to Jakob Behrens. But Scott Mokes will be rubbing his hands in joy over the prospect of Thomas Cope and Aaron Powell. You can see him there on the timing tower in 12th and 13th. Currently 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th in class. So Scott will be extending his lead over his main 2 championship rivals with only 3 rounds to go.
Yeah, it's a great battle here. We're still completely unsure whether Nikolai can definitely make the end. He pitted on 22 minutes, which is normally touch and go, as he goes to the inside of turn number 1 and outbreaks the Ford, and he will muscle his way through, but muscling his way back is the Ford GT on the outside, and we're going to drag each other up the line. And not far behind is Michael Hooper and James Logston in the Team Bear Poke cars for the Pro-Am category, but they're still side by side. Nikolai Frame going to the inside, gets the brake marker done. Is he going to leave enough room for Jakob on the outside? Yes, he is. And it's going to continue down to turn number 4. They're still side by side. The Mercedes and the Ford very equal in terms of their power. Looks like the Ford is going to be on the outside line for turn number 4. And will Nikolai complete the move here this time by? Yes, he does. He clears the Ford, gets the racing line and starts to pull away the best he can. Currently, yeah, it'd be great to have that Ford in there. I've just noticed in the chat there is a message from Roofy Mokes, which we did confirm the other time is not the partner of Scott, but his family member.
Explain the 1 minute club.
Yeah, so the 1 minute club is basically anybody who comes into the pits may have cut across the white line or sped into the pits. These drivers will then pick up a standard stop-go penalty onto their pit stop, and they will take that there and then as they come in. There's no disputing it. There's no, you know, the game will tell you if you're speeding, and you will get it straight away. There's no way we can clear it in time. So, and also we wouldn't be able to check whether it's cleared in time. So it's just the way it seems to be. And yeah, that's the 1 minute club, and that gives us a big advantage because it's kind of generally 40 seconds, but it can be 15 depending on track.
I think it's 40. I think it's 40 seconds here, because it's 40 seconds and around 20 seconds for a pit stop, which gives you your 1 minute club. So let's just have a little rundown to make the embarrassment all the more real for the drivers. So Aaron Powell, Thomas Cope are our 2 pro drivers that are in the 1 minute club. We have Russ Fowler in the Pro-Am in the 1 minute club, and then we have Jimmy Vark, the AM driver, in the 1 minute club. No rookie in the 1 minute club, but we've only got 2 of them. So one of the other classes, and hopefully Ruth, that explains when we say the 1 minute club. Unfortunately, speeding probably in the pit lane is the likely cause of that, and that really put paid to pretty much all of them guys. Jimmy wasn't really up the race, but certainly the other 3 were. Thomas Cope, as we saw, was in second. Aaron Powell was in second as well. So really give the opportunity to Nathaniel, I nearly call him Nathaniel, Nikolai and Jakob Behrens to cement some quality points here.
Have you noticed this? Paul Joseph Plisk is leading rookies. I don't know what's happened to Matthew Gerard, but he's fallen 6 seconds off the pace. We've been saying all along that Matthew has been the quicker driver through practice and qualifying, but now Paul is leading the way. He could still be on his Nortex as well, which would even more extend his championship lead. If anybody's done that around here, very well done to you, because Nortex around this circuit is impressive. There's Matthew Gerard in the background, but Paul Joseph Kliss quietly going about his business again. Since he's moved to Olympus Esports, his performances have improved, and hopefully, I believe Thomas Cope would have been in there helping him out with a few tips and hints. But yeah, the two rookies doing really well here, 27th and 28th overall, ahead of Joe Saul, Hendrik Harrelson, and Jimmy Vark. Eric Steingun we lost earlier on in the race. But let's just see whether Thomas Cope and Nikolai Frayne can make the end of this race without pitting again. I very much doubt it, to be honest, but we'll just have to see. Here's Thomas Cope up to 18th overall, and is on a recovery drive from his 1 minute club. You all get a well, you don't get a medal for that, you get a slap on the wrist.
You get severely embarrassed on the stream.
Yeah,
and on the podcast.
I mean, to be fair, me and Andy would probably both be struggling to slow down for that pit limit line anyway. I don't know, we wouldn't be going quick enough to be able to slow down for it. But yeah, Thomas Cope, to be honest, not his day. After his previous performance in another series for Olympus Esports, where he caught damage, was just unlucky. He was unlucky in the accident here. It was Nikolai and Jakob, or Nikolai and Scott, sorry, who got together. Scott just literally got away scot-free from this, which is, and he's 14 seconds in the lead. But back at the Pro-Am field, here is James Logston still trying to push Michael along. And it's kind of, if Team Bear Pope want to win this race, they've caught up with Jakob Behrens. I would think about letting James go, because Alex Scarrett is now right behind him in the Audi for IGL Coatings Racing, and he is hungry for that victory in the Audi. And the two may just, if they start holding station, they're just going to allow this Audi to close in. And no disrespect to Michael, we know he's quick, but James has looked for quicker around this circuit, leading the class earlier on.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, and I think that what they were trying to do was trying to get rid of Alexander Scarrett, but unfortunately Alex has managed to just keep on the tailcoats of James Logston's rear bumper on that Porsche, and does not let them get away, and it's probably down to the car. The Audi is an extremely fast car on a straight line, a lot quicker than the Porsche, so it's been able to just keep that as always. Watch Alex is just going a little bit wide there over the sausage curve through turn number 1, just taking all them incidents. I don't know, I think we can see the incidents to see how many people are close to that 20 maximum of a drive-through. I don't know if we've got that, Lewis. I think we have, haven't we? To have a look at the incident event.
Michael was a little bit wide there in turn 3. Is that going to give James a look? Alex has a look at James instead. And as you said before, these are closing up on Jakob Behrens. Jakob doesn't want to get involved in this fight. He's got a clear P3 at this moment in time. Will he just kind of jump out of the way? But Nikolai Frayne isn't far down the road. He wants to keep pushing at Nikolai. And this is the dilemma for these drivers, which it would be less of a dilemma if it was the 24 hours, for example, as Michael runs a little bit wide again. Because you've got different classes of cars. These are exactly the same class, exactly the same speed. It's just the drivers behind the wheel that make the difference. So a little bit wide again there by Michael Hooper. He's really pushing hard to try and get ahead of Jakob to edge that gap out, but James Logston's dropped back a touch. I wonder if them two are in contact during this race and trying to cement a 1-2 for Team Bear Pope, but Alex Scarrett does not want that to happen.
I think he may be having a look here, coming down into turn number 3, the hairpin at the bottom of this corner. But you can see there James Logan going super defensive on the outside. Here comes Alexander Scarrett to try and get that inside line, but does thinks better of it and just bides his time Yeah, currently only 4 minutes left of this race to go. I think obviously Jakob Behrens wants to get that P3 overall, doesn't want to give it up to the Pro-Am drivers behind him. So it's going to be interesting now in these closing stages of this race. Is Michael Hooper at the moment probably in the best position, does have James Logsdon, his teammate, behind him for a little bit of rear guard. But like you said, Alexander Scret is all over the back, 2/10, 3/10 of a second, and then 3/10 of a second from James Logsdon to Michael Hooper. So that top of that Pro-Am field is super congested at the moment. But looking at further down quickly before we get into the closing races and come back to this little battle, we've got Steve Pearce leading out the AMs at the moment, so managing to get past his earlier incidents and leading out the field. I was expecting this because Steve was very much at the top end of the tower after both the practice and even in the qualifying session, beating quite a few of the pro drivers. Sander Island there about 12 seconds behind him at the moment, but in a secure second place. 5 seconds behind Odvid Bredvik in P16th overall. Does have Gordon Haig behind him for a little bit of company there, and that is your top 4 in the Anfield. Currently back towards the rookies. We've got Paul Joseph Clist. We're looking at the pit stop times. It's 18.5 seconds compared to Matthew Gerard's 22.3 seconds. And I think that has been very much the difference as to why Paul Joseph Clist, PJC, as we've come to call him, is currently leading out that rookie. Did pit 3 laps later than Matthew as well. So that really overcut has helped him secured at the moment this win. You can see there around about 6 seconds, and it's staying around about 6 seconds, the gap between himself and Matthew Gerard just behind him in P28. So super close in the but let's get back to the battle in hand. Oh, what's happened here? Looks like a big thing. We see James Logden behind Michael Hooper, but look at Alexander Scret now, 8.4 seconds behind Michael Hooper. So something has happened to Alex here. Let's have a look at what happened. Final corners.
Yeah, he's done it on the penultimate corner. That's an unusual one because you have the space to lay it off wide. But Alex gets back going again, stays third in class at this moment in time. We do have possibly this lap and one more to go. So James Logsdon now has free rein to attack his teammate, who is right up behind Jakob Behrens, as you can see there. And then Matthew Gerard just getting out of the way. We will go back to live pitch. Are we back live pictures in a minute? There we go. And nothing has changed just yet, apart from Jakob Behrens has pulled away. There's a little bit of a gap between the two Bear Pope Porsches. I wonder if they've just said, let's call it off now. Let's just bring it home because we haven't got anything to fight about. But into the final lap, very soon, will be Scott Mokes, who is almost, we haven't seen him for a while, actually. We haven't seen him since the pit stops. But Scott Mokes goes round onto what I believe will be the final lap. I think he will cross the line here and get the white flag from Barney, the flag man. Yes, he does. And Scott Mokes, what can we say? We had a championship where we had drivers and we were saying Thomas Cope, he's a driver who we know is very, very quick. Scott, we know is very, very quick. Nikolai Frame, we know is quick. We had so many drivers, but Scott is putting in the consistent performances to take this championship. I think he was right up there in the points. I can't remember whether he's first or second coming into here, but this is going to certainly put him, I think, into the points lead because Thomas Cope has had a couple of bad rounds, and the Performance Link esports driver who has qualified for the Porsche Cup GB esports alongside Thomas Cope. So 2 drivers from our series heading off to take on the best of British in the Porsche Cup series. Will be taking Scott in the amateur category, Tom in the pro category, but today it's Scott Mokes who is in the higher category, 14 seconds clear. He's just got to get around the final 2 corners in the Performance Link car and he will take what I think is a second overall win of the season, but he will extend that championship lead and take victory here at the Red Bull Ring. He takes the win across the line. Nikolai Frane looks like he is going to make the end on fuel, so amazing job by him in the Mercedes. A second place in a row for, it's only 2 seconds there, but second place in a row for Nikolai Frane. Yeah. And the Ford GT is on the podium. Jakob Behrens has got there. He's finally got through the race scot-free, and he gets that podium. Michael Hooper takes the Pro-Am win from James Logston. Logston may be a little bit disappointed with that, with Alex Scarrett just holding off our very own Tom Bingham at the end of that race. Fourth for Bingham, that's a great result for him. Aaron Powell comes across the line in 10th. Patrick Thompson, not a great day. 5th in class. He will really want to push on as they go. And here's Steve Pearce, wins the AM category at a canter after mistakes, I would say, by Simeon Mudderclef, who really had a chance to win this race. And so did Matt Zerd. So did Gordon Haug at some point. Paul Joseph Klisk has already took the win in the rookie category, being a lap down. So we're just waiting for drivers to come across the line. Russ Fowler just moving past Gordon Haug there. Sam Curran has already finished. Thomas Hashberg has finished. Kev Copeland has finished. Here comes Jimmy Vark across the line, one of the last drivers to finish. Daniel Slater just behind, I think running out of fuel as he comes across the line, or I think definitely running out of fuel as he comes across the line. So Daniel Slater crosses that line. Russ Fowler and Gordon Haig, the last of our finishers. But what a race we had.
Oh, run out of fuel.
Okay. Maybe Gordon won't be the last of our finishers. He'll finish technically a lap down, but he'll still finish in 22nd anyway, because everybody else has crossed the line. But what a race. What a drive by our championship leaders. Michael Hooper, great piece of strategy. Scott Mokes leading pretty much all the way in the lead battle, and Steve Pearce and Paul Joseph Kliss as well. So it was all the favourites, really.
In fact, it was all the leaders of the classes won their race. So Scott Mokes was leading in, Michael Hoopler was leading, and Paul Joseph Kliss was leading. So certainly them 3 classes up, and Steve Pearce leading. So all the leaders of the championship won their respective classes. But let's have a quick rundown of the classifications. So Scott Mokes is your winner overall, 14.5 seconds ahead of Nikolai Frane, who's coming on strong in the second half of the season. And a big shout out to Jakob Behrens, we do have another Ford driver, but managing to get that Ford onto the podium for the first time this season. So congratulations to him. Michael Hooper in 4th, James Logston in 5th, Alexander Scarrett in 6th place. Tim Bingham, I think that's his best finish there, in 7th, 4th in class overall. Arish Mantis in 8th. Kim Andre Bortland in 9th, and Aaron Powell in 10th. Patrick Thompson in 11th. Stephen Pearce, the top driver in the AM field, in P12. Christopher Biernes in 13th overall. Sander Island second there in 14th in the AM field. Christopher Altholt in 15th. Thomas Cope in a very disappointing 16th. Odvid Bradvik in 17th, and Eric Rasov in 18th. In 19th position, we've got Mad Sia, Daniel Slater in P20th, Russ Fowler in 21st, Sam Curran in 22nd, Thomas Asfag in 23rd, Kev Copeland in 24th, Paul Joseph Klist, our winner in the rookie class, in P25. 26 was Matthew Gerard with Gordon Haig, and Joe Saul rounding out your top 28. In 29th, we have Jimmy Vark and P30, Simeon Moldeclev, probably a race to forget there, but still managing to pick up the points. And our last point scorer of this round, Hendrik Harrison, 2 laps down from the leader. Eric Sander, John Trussiter, Bob Humphries and Matt Strand all retiring early on, and will score 0 points from this round. I mean, it's been an epic round, but we do have quite a few drivers in the interview waiting area. So without further ado, let's get some in, and let's get our race winner, Scott Mokes, into it. Scott, first half of that race certainly didn't have it all your own way, and then there was a slight little incident between yourself and Nikolai that sort of split up that 6-car trio in the Pro. But then your biggest rivals all seem to be succumbing to what I call the 1 minute club, looking like they sped in the pit lane, which really gave the opportunity to get out. So the second half was probably relatively boring for yourself, but how was it from your point of view?
Yeah, no, it was good. It was really, really close. Everyone was so close at the start. Everyone's really quick around here. Yeah, it's really unfortunate what happened with Nikolai. I haven't had a chance to have a look what happened yet. But yeah, I know that caused a bit of carnage behind. And yeah, following Jacob, that Ford is ballistically quick in a straight line. And then Aaron, I'm not sure what happened. I think it might have been pit entry for Aaron that gave him the penalty. And then from then, it was just bringing it home with no more off tracks.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, talking about off tracks and incidents, what were you at? If you don't mind me asking.
I had 2 to go.
2 to go, so you're at 18.
Yeah, that was from very, very early on as well.
Very easy track to get off track. But obviously, going into this round in pole position, and obviously now with your biggest rivals of Thomas Cope and Aaron Powell having probably a round to forget here. I think Aaron finished P6 and Thomas Cope finished P7 in class. That's going to extend your lead, so you must be now thinking, I've got a real good chance of winning this pro category.
Yeah, I mean, I got the new Thrustmaster DD wheel, so that's really improved my driving. This is probably why I've been able to put the constant pace down here at Red Bull. But yeah, no, looking forward. Yeah, came in here, pole, leading the championship. Unfortunately, the last 2 races of the season, I'm not going to be able to make with a reschedule of the dates, so that's a bit of a shame. So the championship will be open to anybody.
Oh, that's a bit disappointing.
Just to add in there, I don't think they all finished before the end of January. There was no rescheduling.
Fuji and Le Mans got moved.
They're brought back, so you may want to look at the calendar.
Yeah, double check it.
Right, I think we're racing Fuji now on the Daytona weekend and Le Mans afterwards, so you may be able to still fight. But obviously, congratulations again on another what seemed to be an easy race win at the end, and you just got to do what you can do, Scott. But before we let you go, mate, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, shout out to Performance Link, and obviously you and David and Lewis as well for the broadcast. It's always really fun to watch back. And everyone who's coming through being laps, they were absolutely fantastic today. There was no issues whatsoever. And yeah, the racing with the guys here is it's been really fun.
Brilliant. Well, thanks. And obviously, I'll give a shout out to Ruthie Mokes for your spotter as well. So the unsung hero of your team.
And Hayley then.
And Hayley, yeah.
Hayley's my spotter.
There we go. So there we go. There was Scott Mokes winning the pro category. Who would you like to have a chat to, Dave?
Yeah, we've got a full interview rating room, so we'll try and get through as many people as possible. But I'm going to speak to our pro-am winner. And what a piece of strategy that was for you, Michael. You know, you were down in 5th place coming into a pit stops and come out fighting for the lead straight away.
Hello, yes. I would like to say that it was intended, but actually it wasn't. So, yeah, that was just...
Well, you don't have to win. We can take it away if you really want.
No, it was a bit of luck that I think James and Alexander were fighting on the outlaps. I managed my fuel quite well up until the pits, and I almost screwed up my race by putting in 1 liter less than was needed. So I was stuttering in the last corner, but luckily I had James on voice comms, and he said it's okay, we can lift. Alexander has a bit of a gap. So yeah. Not the intended strategy. I was a bit off pace in the beginning, but yeah, it worked out in the end, and it was a very good fight between us 3. I was thoroughly enjoying it.
That's interesting to hear, because Alex only spun with a couple of laps to go. So if he had been there at the end, we wouldn't be talking to you as the winner of Pro-Am by the sounds of things.
Yeah, maybe. The cars were actually faster in different parts of the track, so it would have been really interesting to see a 3-way battle in the end. Yeah.
And obviously extend your championship lead. Patrick was 5th in class, I think, today. So extending your championship lead at front. James is in with a chance of 2nd place, I think. So a great day all round for Team Bear Pope. And just gives you a bit more ease, I think, in the last 3 rounds to try and take this championship.
Yeah, regarding the points, I think it was not expected. I didn't expect it from myself at this race, to be honest, because Red Bull Ring is not a combo I like. So I'm more than happy to take those points. And yeah, ideally I would like to have a good lead coming into Le Mans, the last race. So yeah, I'm enjoying it at the moment.
Well, congratulations on your win. And before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I think the whole field deserves a shout out for showing up every week. I know we've been a bit down on drivers from the beginning, 60 I think, but I think we still have a strong field in all classes, and I think the result today only speaks of that.
And thank you, and we'll see you next time out.
Yeah.
So that was Michael Hooper, our winner in the Pro-Am category, and I'll leave it to Andy for who's next.
So I'm just looking to see if Steve Pierce is there.
He
Yes,
is.
he is. Let's bring Steve in, our winner from the AM. Steve, welcome to the commentary box. Obviously, didn't have it all your own way at the start of the race, but with your obviously performance in the pre-practice and the qualifying, I suppose, did you think it was only a matter of time before you were able to establish your hold and take the win like you did?
Well, I was expecting a lot of pace from the guys in Sim Racing Norway. I mean, they were quick, and unlucky that Simeon had that spin at T1. Otherwise, we would have been battling all the race, I think. But it was hard. It was a hard slog. That first sort of 10-15 minutes with Simeon. But once that spin was out of the way, once Simeon's spin was out of the way, sorry, I latched onto the back of Christoph, and I just sat behind him and just did some fuel saving, because I thought, if I can save any time in the pits, that would be great. And that worked out, because I came in the pits with Christoph and I jumped him in the pits. So worked really well for me. But I did see Sander. He was coming through the field, and he got second, didn't he? In so yeah. So I was a bit worried. I was thinking, I can't make a mistake now. I've got to keep on going, and I sort of backed it off a little bit near the end, but I didn't want to make a mistake. So yeah, it was great, really good. Really enjoyed that race.
Obviously, I think I called it wrong. You're P2 in the championship overall. Sanders obviously leading it out the way, but obviously winning here will be certainly closing that gap. And we got the final 3 rounds coming up. It's going to be a sprint to the checkered flag in Le Mans to see who's going to win this AM category, isn't it? It's super close.
Yeah, it will do. I haven't raced much at Interlagos or Fuji. And hardly anything at Le Mans. I've not even done a race at Le Mans, so I'm not looking forward to Le Mans, to be honest. The other two, much more, but I've not done many laps there, so we'll see. I'll have to get some practice in, won't I, over the next week?
You certainly will have, but I suppose a good omen is we've had quite a few drivers that have come into the booth and have said they haven't done much in the racing, and then come out to the next race and won the event. So it may be holding you in good stead, but only time will see. But congratulations on your race win there, Steve. Closing a gap at the top of that AM standings to Sander Island. Before we let you go, mate, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
As always, the team Reckless Abandon, those guys, just training with them. We're training for the Daytona 24 at the moment, so I've actually been in an Audi all week, so not much in the BM around here. And you guys for setting this up and keeping it going and running things. I know it's just season 1, you got a few hiccups here and there, but it's been brilliant. I'm really enjoying it, so keep it going, guys.
Cheers, Steve, and glad you're enjoying it, and look forward to seeing you in next week in Interlagos.
Will do. All right, take care.
So that was Steve Pierce winning your AM overall. Dave, who else are you going to get in next? Maybe Paul Joseph Clist?
Well, what I was going to do is leave Paul to the very end and bring in just one other interview, which we've definitely got to get a word with, which is Jakob Behrens getting a podium in that Ford GT at last. Jakob, finally, is all I can say. How was that for you?
Well, it was a surprise to me as well because in practice things hadn't gone optimal per se. I was in P17 or something, and then quali car turned up pretty well, and then just held it for the race. I'm surprised I didn't spin out. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we were really pleased to see the Ford up leading the race at last. You know, you haven't had the best of luck throughout the season, but this race, you kind of looked in control at the front for a while, and then dropped back to third, and then sort of settled in and kept it going. And we were kind of surprised Nikolai could make the end on fuel because he pitted very early on.
Yeah. I mean, it was after the pit stop, the Ford just went into death mode again, which was really exciting. But except from that, it was a pretty solid drive for the first stint. I feel yeah, definitely could have gone faster. But then again, I came home yesterday and I started practice yesterday night. So with the practice, it's all right. And then car wants to kill me in half of the turns here, so pretty happy that I haven't driven the wrong way.
Yeah, well, we think it was a great result, and hopefully it's the start of many podiums for Ford if it doesn't kill you along the way. Before we let you go, does anybody want to give a shout out to?
Whoever engineered the Ford, because it's really good at dirt tracking, which is not what you want in circuit racing, but oh well. Shout out to RJL Coating Seed Racing, of course, and Sandnes Trafikkskole. And shout out to my mate Daniel, who's usually races in this league, but right now he is on the other side of this wall sleeping.
Well, you should have woke him up and made sure he could race.
He asked for a pizza.
Yes, a piece, and then there's you celebrating a podium. But yeah, well, congratulations here today, and hopefully we'll see a performance like that at Interlagos in a week's time.
Thank you very much.
So Jacob Behrens, but before we get Paul Joseph Cliston, I do want to get one person from our 1 minute club in. We're going to get Thomas Cope into the box here. Welcome, Thomas. What's it feel like to be an exclusive member of the 1 minute club, mate?
I feel like I'm in a better club. I had to take 2 pit stops during that race because I had a drive through at the end as well due to too many incident points. So even more exclusive.
That one.
We did miss that one. So was it speeding in the pit lane that you got stung for on your pit stop?
No, I had an unsafe pit entry. Obviously, we had the incident at the top of the hill in 3 inferior, but I'm going to say corner 2 because I'm annoying. But yeah, the incident, I had a 90-degree steering wheel after that, so I managed to stay with the guys who were then leading the pack through the rest of the track, but I just didn't expect how the car was going to turn coming into the pits, and I just got hit with the unsafe pit entry. And taking the pit at the same time, it extended the penalty, so I ended up serving 40 seconds stop and hold post pit.
No, you weren't alone there. There was 4 of you guys in the 1 minute club, and well, you probably done the double whammy. So you were a part of the 1 minute club plus the 20 incident point club. There was I didn't see many of them here today. There may have been a few out there that we sort of missed, but thanks for clarifying that for a double race insult for yourself, probably, Thomas. But I suppose looking at the championship itself, it's probably not the result you wanted here today.
No, it's definitely not. Obviously, inferior with how many people are on track. It's still P7 in points, so I'm still going to pick up a few points. I think I've got a total of like 5 points lead over Aaron Powell at the moment for second, and obviously Scott's going to walk away a little bit because he's already in the lead. So it's going to close the championship up for second at least a lot more than it is at the moment, and Scott's going to walk away a little bit, but there's still another 4 rounds left, so there's still a lot to bargain for, a lot to go. I mean, you're speaking 60 points there, so there's still a lot of points still to be gained throughout the championship, and yeah, we're gonna try and nail those last couple of races and hopefully get back on the form we had at the start of the season.
Definitely. Well, I mean, it depends if Scott's already said he might have to miss either the last 2 or 1 race. So it could still be up in the air and up for grabs. So keep going. But congratulations on being one of 4 members of the 1 Minute Club here at the Red Bull Ring, and for doing the double whammy of doing a drive-through penalty as well. So congratulations, Thomas. So not the best day of racing, but before we let you go, mate, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, the whole Olympus esports team. Obviously, we've had a lot on this weekend, so there's been a lot of dedication from all the guys behind the scenes. Biggest shout out Tom Bingham, Tom Binlos, the other TV, and Charles Michelle. They do a lot for the team. Shout out to sponsors, to Grip Engineering, IMB, HSR. They do so much for our team and helping us out, even getting into championships and so on. So, and just everyone in the Olympus squadron, really, they all know who they are. A few of them watch this, so they'll be listening while I'm saying this.
So just give them a little bit of ribbon for being the 100 Club and the drive-through club as well. So there you go. But congratulations, well, not commiseration, should I say, on a round probably to forget, but there's still, like you said, 4 rounds to go in. So thanks for joining us, and hopefully better luck at Interlagos next week, mate.
Thank you very much, guys.
That was Thomas Cope, and probably the last interview of the day, and we'll give it to yourself, Dave, of our rookie winner, Paul Joseph Clist.
Yeah, Paul, not the huge grid you had to fight against, but Matthew was really quick today, and you got one over on him on this circuit.
Yeah, I managed to save, I think it was like 3 laps, fuel extra for Matthew. I managed to get him done over in the bids. He was catching, and then lucky enough, he was coming through. He was trying all the way to win.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Andy mentioned it throughout the race. In practice qualifying, Matt had looked really quick. You were quick, but not quite there with Matthew, and like it almost was at the start of the race thinking, well, 2nd place, it's not going to harm. It's good for the championship, and lose a point. The other thing we've got to ask you: did you manage to get that Nortex again? Can we hear Paul?
Well, I've lost Paul there.
My bad.
There we go.
I got about 13 exits.
Oh.
Trying to keep up with Matthew. He was extremely quick on the track, and I thought I can't play this safe. I'm going to have to try and keep up with Matthew.
So it's extended by 1 point, not 2 points, but you know, it all adds up at the end of the season. Now, obviously, we haven't got a huge rookie field, so it's going to be a little bit easier to control the gap between you and Matthew. But obviously, you've still got to finish the races. You still got to keep it clean throughout.
Yeah, that's it. We got 4 rounds to go, and ended at the start of February.
Yeah, it's going to be really close. But congratulations on your rookie win here at Red Bull Ring. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
The Olympus team, they've been absolute rock. I don't think I'd have won any of these races. Team and my family.
Yeah, and congratulations again on your win, and we'll see you at Interlagos. So that was Paul Joseph Cliss, the winner of the rookie category, and what a day's racing we've had there, Andy. You know, 4 favourites pretty much winning it from the top, near the top of the championship, but a bit of a mix-up, especially in terms of the pros.
Certainly has got sort of got given a gift there. It'll be interesting to see. Hopefully he will be able to make the rest of the 4 rounds, because he'll be a well-deserved winner of that pro category. Like you said in the race, you know, he's been there or thereabouts at the start of the season, just keeping them points ticking over, and then he's sort of grown into the season, and now he's on top form. He's winning events, you know, and his main rivals certainly in that race of Aaron Powell and Thomas Cope just falling by the wayside, getting caught by just trying to get that extra couple attempts in that pit lane that's really let Scott go on. So, you know, his lead at the top of the pro standings will be strengthened from that result here tonight. But looking the Pro-Ams. I mean, Michael Hoopler, again, obviously getting that first place overall, is extending his lead at the top of the Pro-Ams. Going to be extremely hard to catch now, I think, in the final 4 rounds. James Logston, on the other hand, is making a real charge at the moment. You know, Patrick Thompson is sort of falling a little bit by the wayside. He needs to pick himself back up and get back up there and fight. Whatever the cause is as to his loss of performance, whether it's making unnecessary risks on overtakes or something like that, only he'll be able to say that to analyse his game. But he's certainly now getting caught and back into the clutches of the rest of the field for 3rd, 4th and 5th. So, you know, he really needs to be conscious of that he doesn't want to lose them top 3 positions, for 1 for the prizes and 2 for the kudos to be able to do. And then looking further back to the Anfield, Steve Pearce, a great win there. We'll be closing the gap to Sander Island. I think the gap was only around about 5 points, so that will bring it down to around about 3 points, and I think that is going to go down to the wire. And like you said there, we just spoke to Paul Joseph Clist about his battle. Yeah, it's only a smaller field, but again, it's still going down with the 2 drivers between himself and Matthew Gerard to the wire, and it's down to Paul Joseph Clist to command that rookie field. He does have that advantage over Michael, and like you said, as long as he keeps it clean and as long as he finishes the races, you know, the championship, you know, could be his, considering it's only races. But Le Mans is a double points race, so, you know, if Matthew does really well there, he could close it down if he wins the last 4. So, you know, still all up for grabs there overall. But next week we have Interlagos. How are you looking forward to that one, Dave?
I'm certainly looking forward to it. Interlagos is an amazing circuit, especially for championship deciders. Sadly, not our championship decider, but, you know, we've got to go to Le Mans for that. We haven't got a choice. Interlagos, a great circuit, good racing, long uphill straights, quite hilly. Reminds you a bit of this circuit, but then you have that twisty infield section. So all cars should be suited at some point of that circuit, and we should have some great racing.
Definitely is. But now we've had our first race back after the festive period. The guys have blown them cobwebs off of all them mince pies and beers over the festive season and really thrown themselves back in. We've had a cracking race here at the Red Bull Ring. But that's it for tonight's broadcast. Please join us for the podcast during the week, where we'll be hopefully having a chat with one of the drivers and also going over any of the penalties of tonight's races. But from myself, Andy Thompson, from Dave Whitehouse alongside me, and from Lewis Arara in our production box, we bid you farewell for tonight. But please join us again for that pit stop and for next week, same time on Sunday, for Interlagos for round number 11 of our championship here, the Performance Link GT3 Cup. So until then, good night.